So go ahead and turn in your book. 3 is the chapter. So notice we have lesson 1. Starts with chapter 1. That makes sense. At the bottom, you can follow along. There's like a chapter 2 after that. We got to get to chapter 3, module 3. And we're looking for the first section there, 3:1. Guess what it is? Adding integers.
Are we gonna go back?
Yes, we will probably do the first and second. This is page 127. Page 127. I always, when I tell you what page to turn to, I will always write it up here so you can like see it and like figure it out. All right, I want you to see algebra tiles. I don't know that it will necessarily be beneficial for you to where's Clever? There it is. For you to fool around with them right this second, because I think it's going to be more distracting than anything since we don't have our Chromebooks open right now, and it's going to take forever for all of us to get onto the same page and whatnot. But I do want you to see this. So just like I would get into Alex, I'm going to go into Clever and then Red McGraw-Hill and then find that purple math book. So if I'm looking for what we're doing here, I can browse this course, choose module 3, and then choose this lesson here. Now notice I have all of these things. Usually under the Explore, you notice it says Explore. I can find these here where they're orange. So I had to pull that down and then I would click here. So here are what algebra tiles look like. Hey. Does it look familiar to anyone? The race car back? A football back? It looks like fire.
Sorry, I thought.
Yeah, no problem. All right. So here is how we would use algebra tiles. If I have 2 negatives, I would grab 2 negatives. Would you agree that this would equal -2? And then I'm going to combine it with 3 more negatives. 1, 2, 3. Notice if I'm adding these up, I have a total of how many? 5 negatives, right? So let's reset that. And then here we're doing the same thing. I would show 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can I draw this on my page to help? Absolutely. See how I took 5 negatives? I could easily write out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negatives, right? And then combine it with 2 more. And I'm still getting a total of how many negatives here? How many negatives are in this box? 7. Good. Why won't it clear? Oh, reset. So now what happens when you have a positive combined with a negative? They become what? What's 1 minus 1? 0. If I have a -1 and a +1, they become 0. So another way we could model this is if I have 3 positive ones, I would choose these positive ones, but then I would have 7 negatives. So for these first 3, I'm going to put them right next to them because if I combined these, they would be subtracting them, right? How many more do I need to make 7 negatives? 3, 4. So these become 0. So all that I have left are these negatives over here. So how many negative would be my answer? Negative. What is this? 4, right? -4. Do you see that? It's a different way of looking at it. Hopefully it's helpful. But remember, we found the difference because our signs were different. So we would say 7 minus 3 is 4. And that gave us the 4 negatives. All right. Same thing here, whatever the number is in front, I'm sorry, whatever the sign is in front of the number goes with that. So here I have 5 negatives, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I have 7 positives, these all match up. The first 5 of them anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those all become 0, and then I have 6 and 7. So if these all become 0, I'm left with what number? 1, 2, right? So my answer is 2. So this is another way that you can show this. So I could draw out 5 negatives, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I could make 6 positives. I'm sorry, 7 positives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that shows my answer. This would be -5 plus 7. Remember, when our signs are different, this is why we subtract, because we have different signs and some are canceling each other out. So when our signs are different, we find the difference. So we would say 7 minus 5 is 2. And here our bigger number was positive, so our answer is going to be positive. So those are the things we have been looking at and are going to continue looking at today. All right, I'll stop sharing that screen so you have this big. So we're looking at learn. A lot of this is what you know. Hopefully this is review, right? We've taught, and then we've retaught, and then we've retaught. And guess what we're going to do again today? We're going to reteach. So if you're struggling, pay close attention. If you're not, this is still good to pay close attention because it will solidify and help you teach it to others. Best way to know if you've mastered it is if you can teach it to others. To add 2 integers with the same sign, you can use a horizontal or vertical number line. And as you see here, if we're adding with the same sign, we're finding the sum. They're going to the left. So they combined 3 negatives with 4 negatives to get -7, right? So again, same sign here, right? Same sign here. That means we can find the sum. If you don't know what the sum is, put it in parentheses. That means we have to add. All right, there should be no reason we're not learning this. We got to put forth some effort. We learn by doing math. We can't just sit and pretend like we're sponges, because we're not. But if you practice it, you will become like a sponge and get it rather quickly, hopefully. All right, same thing here, but on a vertical number line. They started at 0, went 5 down from there to show the -5, and 4 more down from there to show the -4. Thanks, Ellie. Appreciate it. I'm surprised you didn't steal that from me like that piece of
Yeah.
Oh. All right. Liam, do you want this mint? It was only going to be Liam's because Allie stole from him. All right. The number lines illustrate the rules for adding 2 integers with the same sign. So here's what we just wrote. To add 2 integers with the same sign, add their absolute values. The sum is positive, so we can write positive. This is page 128. I just turned the page. Hopefully I didn't lose you too badly. So if we add 2 integers with the same sign, if they're both positive, the answer is positive. If they're both negative, the answer is negative. So these are very important notes to have. Yes. If you're getting a glare, you can move. There's a whole island back here. There's a whole island back there. You can jump behind Silas if it's better back there. I know there's a kind of a black glare sometimes at this time. My sharpener's up at the wall there, but close to the door. All right, so you can use the number line here, or if you know how to do it, let's just show it with the number line. We would go from the 0 to the -7 here, right? -7. And then we would go -2 more. So that leaves us at our answer, which is what? -9. Do you see what they're doing? Our method 2 is what we've been doing in our heads, right? Because the integers have the same sign, we're going to find the sum of the absolute values. When our signs are the same, we find the sum. So the absolute value of -7 is 7. The absolute value of -2 is 2. So if we find the sum, we say 7 plus 2, which is 9. And we know it has to be negative because both integers are negative. And I always tell you whichever one's bigger. If they're both negative, then of course the bigger one's also negative. So your answer is negative. That just leaves you with one less answer. All right. Try that check on page 128 real quick. I just want to be sure you know what you're doing here after we've seen it multiple times. So page 128, I'm coming around to be sure you are on the same page, able to answer that check on page 128. All right, my dears. Good job. Do that check. Okay. Some of you are even writing down. Yeah. Do this check. Our signs are the same, so we're adding them up. If both of our signs are negative, our answer is negative. Are we going on 129 or 128? I was trying to do it. I want to get 128. That was feedback from my mic, sorry. All right, so you can choose to draw this out, but now with these bigger numbers, we have to remember our rules. When our signs are the same, we find the sum. Notice they rewrote these with their absolute values. You don't have to do that, but really what you're thinking is 5 plus 11, which is what? 16. And we know our bigger number tells us, and in this case, they're both negative. So of course our answer is negative. So this is kind of what we're thinking. When our signs are the same, we find the sum, which means to add. All right. Here is just an example, but with a word problem on page 129. So I know you can do this. Allie borrowed $139 from her parents, more like stole, to purchase an ebook reader. During the first month, she purchased $47 in apps, games, and movies, which was added to the amount she already owed her parents. So if you borrow something, you're in the hole, right? And if she borrows some more, she's even more in the hole. So we're thinking of these things when our signs are the same, we're finding the sum. So we're taking the absolute value of both of these numbers, right? We should know that the absolute value of -139 is 139. And the absolute value of -47 is 47. When our signs are the same, we find the sum. Yeah. Found the sum. What'd you get? I got it. 196. That sounds reasonable. I have to write it vertically because I'm not very good. So careful here. This is 16. This is 8. This is 1. So 186. Don't forget, don't be afraid to take that extra step and write them vertically if you're having a hard time adding them up. Don't forget to carry, right? Regroup. All right, but because both integers are negative, the sum will be negative. So that 186 is really -186. I know this is some of your first time seeing this textbook. Can I give you a little hint? When we're doing these examples here, they always have the answer down here. So they might make us write it, but we can always look down to find the answer. They rephrase the question with the answer. So if you're ever like, oh, I didn't do that page with Mrs. Lobb, well, you can go back and do it and you'll still see the answer, okay? A contestant on a game show has negative 1,500 points and loses another 750 points. So we're thinking negative 1,500 or 1,500 plus another negative 750. Our signs are the same, so we're finding the sum. Go ahead and do it. Give me a second. Put your phones away. So we know we have 50 in there. If we add our hundreds up, 7 and 5 makes 12. So I gotta carry that one. So if I carry that one above here, yes, 2250 or 2,250. Well done. And that is points. Notice they labeled this for us. We're talking dollars. All right, example 1 and 2. Thumbs up, thumbs down. How are we feeling? Okay-ish. Sideways, some of you. All right. Looking good, looking good. All right, before we find the additive inverse, I want you to pull out your packets. I'm going to circle some of these that you should be able to do by now. This is page 8. Notice it says 3-1. A lot of these problems are also in the textbook, but because we're going to turn in this packet, I'm going to have you do them in here instead of in the textbook. And that way this is easier because remember, whatever in this packet you can use on the quiz. Right? We want to do well on the quiz. If we have those notes to refer back to, it's helpful. I am hoping you can do number 1, straightforward. The ones like we did today were like number 2 and number 4 and number 5. I have confidence that you can do some others of these too, but let's just stick to those and then we're gonna jump to, that's it. Let's just keep it simple. Keep it simple today. So we're gonna practice with those 4 and then we're going to get into ALEKS to make sure we're progressing through our knowledge check. I know some of you were able to get into it yesterday. Some people have not. You get through your knowledge check, you can continue on your path. But just try these 4 questions so you're solidifying the fact that when our signs are the same, we're going to find the sum. Right? Remember, this means to add. Remember, the sign is always the sign of answer. We're going to say same as bigger. Remember, this is the absolute value. Same as the bigger number. And when we find the sum, we're finding the sum of the absolute values. Just 1, 2, 4, and 5. Super, you can do 3. All right, so 1, 2, 4, and 5. If you're struggling, let me know now, right? You gotta let me know as soon as possible. You should be able to do these problems independently after today. So if you're struggling and you're not sure what to do, hands should be going up. We should be between a 0 and a 1. So I should not know that you're talking. If you are talking, you can whisper every so often, but I would say you need to stay on task. So get these 4 done, but I need you to move along through ALEKS. Get a good go on that knowledge check. And if we are as fantastic as we have been, we will go early to lunch again today.